So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZW Games 5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube? Dan here from Zephyr Games, bringing you a good old classic from Duelist Alliance time, and that is of course Yang Zing's. Now, I'll never forget Yang Zing's because I got back into the game around Duelist Alliance time. This is when Tellarknight, Shaddolls and Yang Zing's were around. And one of my good friends, Danny, who kind of helped nurture me back into the game, and I'll never forget this, he dropped a Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Trees, on me. Now, this was an old school card. It's like a level 10 Synchro. Its effect is it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects until your main phase 2. So back in the day, there wasn't any imperms, there wasn't anything like that. It was really tough to get past it. And that's bad enough as it is, but he made it with a Bian, I think a Bixie and a Shwani as well. So it had an additional 500, it had couldn't be destroyed by battle, and then it also had unaffected by trap cards. I was just like, bro, what am I supposed to do this? But ever since then, the deck, I love the deck, it's so cool. The only issue it is it can miss timing because of the when effects. Not matter about that. Like, this deck's got a nice little boost because of Martial 5, and it's also got a nice little boost because of Needle Fiber, and as you can see, I keep saying and, the what is it called? The 10 years, my brain went dead. It's also got a nice boost because of the 10 years as well. So please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything, hit the notification bell as well, and without further ado, let me take you through one of my favourite decks, and that is Yang Zing's. So this is not pure Yang Zing's, it has to use a MR5 engine because the MR5 engine actually makes the deck better, and I'll explain why as we go through it. So I've tried to focus more on the Yang Zing's themselves, so it is all about synchro spam. So we do play triple Jitao, the Darkness of Yang Zing, level 2 tuner. If it's on his own, you basically, if you control no monsters, you get to normal summon this card. You can send 2 Yang Zing cards from your hand to the graveyard, special on 1 Yang Zing with 0 attack and 1 Yang Zing with 0 defense from your deck. Now, it's very rare you're going to want to do this in this day and age because if you get ashed, it's going to suck. But he is a level 2 tuner. The other tuner of the deck we play is 2 Chowen. This card can actually revive itself from the graveyard, so if another Yang Zing is destroyed via card effect and this card is in the graveyard, you can use this effect to revive this and it gives you an additional tuner to let you go off. Then for the non-tuners, we've got triple Bixie. So this card, if it's used as Synchro material, the Synchro monster is unaffected by trap effects. Nice, especially so no imperm as well, which is brilliant. Triple Shwani, this is your beater of the deck. So this one is the level 4. If the Synchro monster that uses this as material gains an additional 500 attack, nice. Triple Bian, level 3. Again, all of the Yang Zings, you don't know because they are a little bit of an old one, have the same effect that if they are destroyed via battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, so they have to go to the graveyard, you get to special summon out from your deck another Yang Zing monster of a different level. Oh, sorry, I think it's not different. It just can't be the same. All of them are different levels anyway, so it just can't be the same card. So Bian protects the Synchro monster from being destroyed by battle. The one that Pilau, this one protects it from being destroyed by spell effects, or is unaffected by spell effects. And then I play 2 Zafrani. This one doesn't have as good of an effect because it doesn't float. But when it is destroyed by battle or card effect, while in the monster zone, you can add 1 Yang Zing or Zephyr spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So that searches you out your path so you can recycle stuff, but more importantly, it will search you out your pillars of the Yang Zing as well. So it allows you to have a constant negate. I say constant negate because it's not a once per turn as well. So when it's pendulum summoned, as well, you'll get that additional search off as well. So if you do pendulum summon it, because you do use the Metaphors, you'll get the additional effect off as well. Otherwise, you're going to special summon it off of one of Yang Zing's, 2600 defender, pop it with a Yang Zing, get a search of your spell or trap that you need, and then you're allowed to extend a little bit further. Then for the spicy tech, bringing this deck into 2020, we play triple Tenyi Spirit Vishuddha. Now the reason you can actually play 3 of this guy in the deck is it's a nice extender if you open it. It's a free level 7 on the board, so 1 more level 1 or your level 1 tuner takes you straight into a Bixie or any level 8 Synchro. The other thing with that is if you control no effect monsters, so if you only control a Metaphors monster, because they are non-effect monsters, you can just still special summon this card. And then if you control a Metaphors monster that is obviously from the main deck or the Pendulum monsters, you can actually banish this card from the graveyard and bounce a card your opponent controls as well. So this actually is more live. and it is a worm, so it kind of combos off with both sides of the engine, the Metamorphose engine and the Zing engine as well. Onto the Metamorphose engine, double Steelen, double Volflame, double Silverid, and double Gold Driver with a single Bismugear. You can actually bump Bismugear up if you want to, but the way this kind of operates is you've got a nice balance of all the twos. You don't want too many of the Metamorphose. You want to open up one of them. If you get the scales going, excellent. And obviously their effects in the scales is to pop or target one face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, set one Metamorphose spell or trap from your deck. So this gets you into your fusions, this gets you into your counters, this gets you into your floatability of this engine here, but it allows you to pop your Zing monster, which then allows the Zing monster to go off and get your effects. So you can get the additional card out of your deck that you need in order to extend or synchro climb as well. Then for the spells, play the one Metamorphose Fusion. We all know how much of a brick this can be. However, in this deck, it can be very, very useful because not only can you make Mephilim, we also play Orichalcus, and we also play the level 1 as well, the Alkahest, just as an additional bit of disruption during your opponent's turn. And to help us make the Alkahest as well, we do play the one full Metamorphose Fusion. So both of these are searchable. Obviously this Metamorphose Fusion can go back into the deck and give you a draw. This is just a quick play so that you can do it during your opponent's turn as well. Should you want to, you could put Super Poly in here, and if you were to do that, you'd play some of the vanilla fusion monsters, purely because they're like one Metamorphose monster plus a monster with 3,000 or less attack. So you'll always have a target on board. So it's definitely a card you can slide in without a doubt. And then for the final spells, we've got the one Zing Path and the one Pot of Avarice. Now you can play Pot of Avarice at 2. The only reason I've got it at 1, which I think this ratio works, is because most of your Metamorphose monsters are going to go to your extra deck. They're not going to go to the graveyard. So the only cards you're going to be spinning back with this are going to be your Link monsters and your Synchros, which when we get to the extra deck, you'll see we don't really play multiples of those cards because you don't need to. The Zing Path will specifically spin back 3 Zings. This will let you spin back 5 of any monsters. The majority that are going to be in your graveyard will be Zing monsters, but the additional ones will all be your extra deck. So the idea is you're going to flood through your extra deck, you're going to spin them back, you're going to draw 2 new cards, you're going to be able to extend even further. Onto the traps, triple 9 pillars of the Zing. This is not once per turn, which is beautiful. So when a spell, trap or monster effect is activated and you control a Zing card, negate the activation, and if you do, shuffle that card into the deck. Then destroy one other Zing card you control. So your idea is you negate, pop a Zing card you control, and then get either a float or a search. So the idea is, if you say you've got 2 paths set, you activate one path, pop the Zing, that Zing then floats, gives you another one. If you've got Chai Wen in the graveyard, you'll get 2 Zings on the board. And let's remember, the Zing effects are quick effects during your opponent's battle phase or main phase. You can instantly use that monster to Synchro summon. So as long as you've got a tuner on the board, you can actually Synchro during your opponent's turn, go into a Baxia, a Bixie, and spin stuff, no, it is a Baxia, and spin stuff back as well. So you do actually have disruption plays should you need it. But then in this example, if you had 2 pillars, you can negate, pop, summon, negate, pop, summon. So you floated a bit, and then if you've got the Chai Wen, you get an additional one out on board. Let's say you get to the monsters that you need in order to make your Synchro summon. You could then make Herald of Arc Light, or you could also make another monster that allows you to kind of deal with your opponent's board or disrupt them even further than 2 paths are going to do anyway. For the final Zing card, we do play the 1 Creation. I think Creation's fine at 1. You could put it at 2 if you want, but the idea is once per turn, if a monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, special summon 1 Zing monster from your deck. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Synchro monsters. So the idea is behind this that no matter what card gets destroyed, one of your Metaphors, one of your Fusions, one of your Synchros, one of your Link monsters, you're always going to be able to get a Zing to the board. So whatever gets destroyed, if you've got stuff like counter as well, because this is an if effect, you use counter, counter will give you a monster, this will give you a Zing monster, and then all you need is a tuner that has the quick effect to Synchro summon, and straight away you can use that to climb up even further, and again, add additional disruption to your opponent. For the Metaphors trap cards, we play 2 counter and the 1 combination. So the combination is less so for its first effect. So if a fusion monster is fusion summoned, you can target 1 Metaphors monster in your graveyard with a lower level than that fusion summon monster and special summon it. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you add 1 Metaphors monster from your deck to your hand. So it is a nice little rotor for the deck when you pop it. Counter, if a card or cards you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, special summon 1 Metaphors monster from your deck. During either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard and add 1 face-up Metaphors Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. So it allows you to recur your extra deck Pendulum monsters because you're not going to be able to do that until you set your scales. let's remember that pendulum monsters from the extra deck have to go to a zone a link monster points to, so you want to keep those free, mainly for the pendulum monsters, because your synchros can go wherever they want. The counter just gives you a bit of an extension, so like I said, if you were to, for example, have counter set ready to go, and then your opponent destroys one of your Yang Zings by battle, you can then, if you do the chain correctly, use counter, get an additional monster, get the Yang Zing monster off as well, and then you've got the ability to synchro straight away there if you bring out a tuner. Then if you have another Yang Zing on board, you can actually synchro even higher. So it really depends on what your board control is like, but the best thing about Yang Zings is they can float. Now, moving on to the extra deck, I'm going to go through the link monsters first, because we're going to keep these to an absolute base minimum, and then I'll go through the fusions, and then we'll go through the best part of the deck, and that is the synchros. So for the link monsters, to get everything started, we've got 3 link 2s. We've got the Croshy, we've got the Halifex, and we've also got the Shaman of the Tenyi. So, I'll explain where we've got each of these. Croshy, you do fuse and you do synchro. So the synchro makes all your opponent's monsters, all your monsters control gain 700 attack. Fusion, obviously you get to revive a level 4 or lower, so you can actually revive your Yang Zing monsters, whether it be a tuner or one of your normal monsters that can then be used to give your synchros an additional boost. You don't have to play Croshy, it's just an additional link 2 that can help you do that. The Shaman of the Tenyi requires 2 worm monsters, but you discard 1 card, target 1 worm monster in your graveyard, and special summon it. For the rest of the turn, you cannot activate the effects of monsters special summoned from the extra deck except Tenyi monsters. So the idea behind this is that what you're bringing back allows you to either synchro during your opponent's turn, or should you synchro, you've got to go mainly into the Tenyi Spirit Sasara, or the synchro monster, if you wanted to put it in, of the Berserker Tenyi. Then we've got the Christian Haliflex, or Hyberbrax, however you do it. 2 monsters including a tuning monster, so that is your Yang Zing monster and one of your Yang Zing tuners. Then it allows you to get the other tuner from your deck. You can then get rid of this during your opponent's turn to bring out a Synchro monster, which again, whether you use that Synchro monster's particular effect to Synchro climb higher, or use one of your Yang Zing monsters to use that Synchro monster as a material to climb higher, it allows you to perform even more disruption. And I'll show you the one card that I play in this deck that completely shuts your opponent down if you use the correct attribute for it. So whether you do that during your opponent's turn when they're like, oh cool, I'm going to go off, I play, or you don't know what your opponent plays and your play goes, right, I'm going to make a Dark monster, you go, whoa, hold up, and you use this play, you make it correctly, and you lock your opponent out of activating Dark effects. And I'll show you how to do that towards the end. Then, of course, for the last link monster, we do have the Tenyi Spirit Sasara. Now, the reason I play this is because it just requires worm monsters. It requires 4 worm, or 2+ worm monsters. So straight away, if you've got your Shaman and your Shaman brings back a worm monster, all you need is another worm monster and you go straight into this one. Now, the best thing about this is while you control a face-up non-effect monster, monsters your opponent controls cannot target effect monsters outright for attacks. The idea is you then get to target 1 effect monster your opponent controls on their field. Target it and give yourself a token, a Tenyi Spirit token, Worm, Light, level 4, attack, mystery, defense 0. The token's attack becomes that target's monster's original attack. It's a quick effect and it is a hard once per turn, but the idea is that during your turn you give yourself a token. During your opponent's turn you give yourself another token. So you're actually flooding your board with non-effect monsters that your opponent can't attack effect monsters until they get rid of those tokens. So the stronger their monster is, the stronger your token is. And the more you have, the less they can attack. So that just gives you another boss monster in your extra deck. For the fusions, we only play 3. We play the 1 Mithrilium. This is just obviously your nice little non-target bounce back. Your Metaphors Orichalc. This is one that if Mithrilium, if this card is sent from the field to grow, so if you pop it, you special on 1 Metaphors Pendulum monster from your graveyard, or face up from your extra deck, so you get to bring that out. Your Orichalc is if a Metaphors monster you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict double piercing damage. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you entire 1 card on the field and destroy it. And then we've got the 1 full Metaphors Alkahest. This is just to form different disruption. It does require a normal monster, so it is very, very more specific. But these are just basically to get boss monsters out of your Metaphors engine once they've done their duty of setting up your Yang Zing plays. During your opponent's turn, target 1 effect monster on the field, equip that target to this card. This is a quick effect. This card gains attack and defense equal to the combined original attack of monsters equipped to this card by this effect. You can use monsters you control equipped to this card you control as fusion materials for the fusion summon of a Metaphors fusion monster that lists them as materials. So the idea is, one thing I'm afraid of is Winder Pass or anything to involve Winder. So as soon as my opponent goes Metal Phase Fusion, Shaddoll Fusion, and brings out a Construct or a Winder that can actually pull my board apart, I can use Alkahest to attach it. That way, as long as I don't send it to the graveyard, they're not going to get their recurrence effects either. And it gives you a nice little bit of disruption that your opponent just can't deal with. Then on to the best part of the deck, and that is the Synchros. So, we start off with the level 4 Herald of Arclight. Imagine this, you're going to make this with Bian and a Chaiwen. This can't be destroyed by battle. It's a negator that sits in defense mode, that everything that's sent from the deck to the grave is going to get banished. And it's just like, nice, I'm going to banish all your stuff. It is a Synchro deck. We are in MR5, so a TG Hyper Librarian that can be made with a Swani and a level 1 Chaiwen, or a BN and a level 2 Jital, sorry. This one can then not be destroyed by battle if you do it that way, or it gains an additional 500. So it's a 2900 beta that's going to let you draw every time you Synchro Summon. Nice. We then move on to the level 7s, and we play a couple of level 7s. So we played the Dawn Dragster for additional negation, and then we played the Shooting Riser Dragon. Now the Shooting Riser Dragon can actually be the TG Magician, or it can be the Synchron as well. That basically allows you to tune during your opponent's turn. And the reason I went with Riser Dragon is because I bring this out off of Needle Fiber, and then I can adapt its level. So I can pretty much, if I control my deck, and my deck of Yang Zings at all levels 6 or 1 through 6, I believe, except to 5. You do have a 5 that you can put in should you want to. But the idea is you can adapt this guy's level to be anything from about 1 to 2 if you do it rightly. 1 to 6 if you do it rightly. That then means that even if you don't have a Yang Zing that can tune, which 9 out of 10 you will do, or even if you've got a Metaphose monster, using his effect can allow you to pretty much go into any of your bigger monsters or little monsters as well. So for example, you can actually, if you do it correctly, use your Riser Dragon to get into your Omega during your opponent's turn, or more better, your Yazi, your Baxia, or your Chao Feng. Now the Chao Feng is the boss monster. This is the best card of the deck. It is a level 9, but it requires 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner monsters. While this Synchro Summon card is on the field, your opponent cannot activate effects of monsters with the same original attribute as the Yang Zing monsters used for this Synchro Summon of this card. When this Synchro Summon card is destroyed by a battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 tuner monster from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, when a monster your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Worm-type monster from your deck in defense position whose original attribute matches the original attribute of one of those destroyed monsters had on the field. Now the idea is, with Chao Feng, because it only requires 1 tuner, if you use Shooting Riser Dragon, use his effect to send whatever you need from deck to the graveyard in order to make your Chao Feng with either a Bixie, a Shuani, or a Bian. That way, straight away, or even a Pulao, locks out wind monsters, fire monsters, water monsters, and of course earth monsters. Without using Riser Dragon, if you make this and you know what your opponent's playing, you can make this with a Chao Feng or a Jital, which allows this to stop your opponent from playing with light monsters and dark monster effects. Guess what Nibiru is? That's right, a light monster. So if you're worried about Nibiru, all you need to do is make this guy with a light monster, because it just says they can't activate their effects. It shuts them down from everywhere, the graveyard, the hand, and the field. So straight away, no matter what you're up against, if you make this with the correct materials, you can lock out as many attributes as possible. The only thing you can't lock out with this, sadly, is light and dark at the same time. Everything else you can lock out at the same time. So for example, if your opponent was playing Salamangreys, as long as you use Shuani, locked out. If they play Mermails or Toads, you make it with Bixie, locked out. Not only does it then give this an additional 500 or makes it unaffected by traps, it then blocks it even further. Look at Orcus, for example. As soon as my opponent goes, activate Scrap Recycler, if you can make a dark monster or use this using Jital, straight away you go, cool, I locked out darks for the rest of the turn. Or you know you're playing Orcus, you make this with Jital, you lock out their darks. If you want to put the level 5 Yang Zing monster, which is also a dark, into the deck, which is not a tuner, it can be a bit of a brick, but it then also gives you a little bit more easy access to lock out both light and dark, depending on what your opponent's playing. Now, I know I've gone on quite a lot about this deck, but I just wanted to fully explain it in as much detail and as depth as I possibly could. It is an incredibly fun deck. I love the fact that this deck is back. Master of 5 definitely allows it to become more prominent. I do not feel that it's going to be meta defined. It's not going to trump the meta or anything. But at this moment in time, when the meta is open as much as it is, you play this, you can actually catch a lot of people off guard, especially if you play the Chow Feng correctly, and you also side deck incorrectly as well. You can really, really catch your opponent off guard and really, really stump them and catch some very, very good wins at locals, and even higher should you prepare and test the deck properly. So my advice is, if you like this deck, build it, test it out online. We even got a release of the new dueling setup, which was like a Mega, I believe. So you've got more than enough. Duel Book, Yugioh Pro, Omega, and other kind of systems that allow you to test while we're in this isolation period. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you like this profile. Please smash that like button, subscribe as well if you did, and join us for the next time we do a profile, which will probably be fur hires as well. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. And as always, guys, happy dueling.